Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage. Yet another car in the garage. I would just like to address that I know I have extremely many projects at the moment, and you should expect the future to bring even more. Because as many of you know, I have decided to try to make a living out of the stuff that I do in my garage. That means that I will sometime take customer cars to work on. Very often I will most likely make films about it because that is really interesting. For instance, there is a really interesting, actually one of my favorite estate cars from the late 90s and early noughties standing right outside of there. I'm most likely going to make a video about that. Anyway, it also means that I'm from time to time will take on smaller projects that I just need to fix up, and then we'll try to flip and hopefully earn a little bit and also make more interesting content. This was a bit of an impulse buy. I never ever owned a Ford. I think it's about time because I have owned an extreme amount of cars, but never a Ford. This is a Ford Escort. It's a Ford Escort 1.6, 16 valve. It's an air-conditioned edition. That's about it. There's nothing else interesting to say. The interesting thing about this car is that I was offered to buy this one really cheap. And I just wanted to check out what they were going for. What was the current selling price on these? And it turned out I couldn't find any for sale in Denmark. So I checked out the statistics, and it turns out I think it's a bit hard to say precisely, but it seems as though only 17 are left registered in my country. The rest of them are unregistered or scrapped. This car has suddenly become extremely rare. For a reason, I won't be the one to decide that, but one thing is for sure, this is one of the daily workhorses back in the 90s. Now they have disappeared, and I know cars like that are interesting for a lot of people because these boxes of metal, no matter how bad, how good, how ugly, how good looking they are, contains a lot of memories about our history. So I'm going to try to tackle this one. This has been off the road for around 5 or 6 years. I know some stuff that needs to be done to it to fix it. I think I got pretty much all the parts for it. I haven't seen it myself underneath, but apparently it's in pretty okay condition. It just needs some parts changed. It needs a fresh MOT. It needs to be cleaned, of course. It looks like a barn find at the moment, but to be honest, I think a pretty clean example of a Ford Escort is hiding underneath the filth. Like many cars, these tend to rust a lot, especially in the Danish climate. This seems to be okay. As I said, I haven't seen it underneath, but I trust the guy I bought it from. He didn't promise me anything. It's nothing like that, but he told me he thought it seemed to be in pretty okay condition. There will always be something. But it has some problems. Some of them are worse than others. But I think this will be a rather small series. I think it will be this one. Maybe a clean and detail, especially the engine really needs a clean. Then a video about fixing the stuff and an MOT and a test drive. And then I will put it up for sale, most likely. At the moment, a lot of my cars are broken. So a small part of me attempted to just use this as a daily for a while, but to be honest, I think it's just a bit too modern for me, which is pretty weird considering it's 25 years old. But it got working injection and 16 valve and cam belt and all that kind of stuff. That's pretty much all the parts that I need is in the trunk of the car. There are 4 sets of new tires because these tires are no good. The 4 tires should be all right. There are a set of springs. The front springs on this one has corroded badly. One of them has actually snapped. Then the brakes needs to be done. The rear brakes are dragging. All that kind of stuff that happens when cars just stand around for a long time. Then a bit more serious is, well, not really serious, but this is an air-conditioned model. And while I don't expect to be able to fix the air conditioning system, I'm actually unsure if I'm even allowed to try in my country. I know there are a lot of regulation about the gas at least. But the air conditioning pump is driven by the belt that drives the generator, the water pump and some other stuff. That air conditioning pump is completely wrecked. And because of that, the belt has been removed because it is, maybe I can show it. It is really loose. It's completely broken in the bearing. There is another air conditioning pump in the rear. So I think I'm just going to fit that and fit the belt back on. I need to do that ASAP because driving a car without a working water pump is not a good idea. It's okay for a couple of minutes, but not more than that, because there will be no circulation in the system, of course. But that is in the rear, so I can fit that. Then, of course, this is a modern engine, so it got one of those stupid cam belt things. I can't just remove it, but I expect the cam belt to be in the need of a change. It's actually written here. It must have been changed since then. If not, then it's from 2004, I think. And that's a long time ago, so it needs to be changed, because on a 16 valve, you're not going to have a good time if it snaps. So I need to change that. Another thing that is a problem on this one is the steering rack is leaking on one side. I have been told. I haven't seen it myself, but I do believe it. In the trunk of the car, there is a spare steering rack, so maybe I need to change the steering rack. I do hope that maybe I can change the seals in that end. I don't know what it's coming from, the leak, so maybe it's something simple, maybe it's not. But removing a steering rack could become a little bit complicated, but we'll see about that. A small leak is okay, a big leak will not be okay for an MOT. And before I open the door, I just want to warn you that the taste in materials from the 90s was something different. I'm not going to say it was tasteless, but it's it's just another kind of taste, I think. I actually really like the 90s and the fabrics and all that, but there's just a special vibe to the stuff from the 90s. Like these kinds of fabric things. And in this one, we have this. I'm gonna assume it's a fake wood. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'm pretty sure that this is some kind of plastic fake, walnut kind of thing. In a way, I actually think it's pretty cool, but it is very 90s. A bit surprisingly, when I saw this, the odometer only goes to 100,000 and then resets. This car got a service book, and according to that down there, this car has only got 124,000 kilometers on the clock. So this is a really low miler. Not really low, but it's kind of low, and really makes it worth saving, I think. Oh, it's got the big package. Jesus Christ, it's got a CD player from 90. I think it's a 97 model, this one. No, 98. CD player in a car from 98. I think it's not been the cheapest edition, that's for sure. And of course, air conditioning. This is maybe not that uncommon in some countries, but in Denmark it wasn't really. It was an expensive option back then. 5-speed gearbox, button, window, doing things. Actually, it also looks like it got a pretty proper sound system. Can you see it in there? That actually looks kind of cool. Yeah. And as I told you, the trunk or the rear of the car is filled up with parts. Not only parts I need, but also extra parts. As you can see, we got the entire spare coilover McPherson strut back there and the brake calipers and stuff. It shouldn't be needed, but it's good to have, of course. Escort air conditioning. And this chrome, plastic chrome by the way, once again, matches the wood inside the car really nice. And this one, this is what is tempting me to actually use this for myself for a while. But to open the trunk, it's a bit like Japanese cars and it's really annoying in my opinion. But you have to pull this. Oh, you actually have to press it. Oh, maybe it was already open. Nope. Maybe it's broken. Could it be locked maybe? For some reason. It doesn't make sense that it... Anyway, it was locked. But as you can see, we got spare parts in here. The most expensive brand you can buy. Not, but it will work. Coils, air conditioning pump, brake pads, some brake lines, or brake hoses it is. And yeah, that air conditioning unit and a new. Oh, this belt is no good. I think I saw a new one. Yeah, there's a new one right there. So that is good enough. And the engine just turns over. It fires up. You can hear the hydraulic lifters, but an oil change and a heat up should cure that. So it sounds really promising in my opinion. What I would really like to do out here is to clean the engine bay, because I think, especially if I go down the road of trying to be a wheeler dealer's kind of guy about this, it would be nice to clean up this engine bay. When I change the cam belt, I most likely will take this off anyway, so cleaning that up would be a good thing and pretty easy, I think. The air condition, of course, it would be nice to make it work. I'm going to figure out if I can put gas in this system legally in my country. If I can that, then maybe I will try it. But this project will be all about getting it through an MOT, making it safe and reliable to drive for as cheap as possible, and then sell it on, hopefully for a profit. I can really not spend a lot on it if that is going to be possible, because I did pay some money for it. It will need some parts. The MOT will cost some money. Number plates will cost some. So I will try to do it as cheaply as possible without buying pretty much anything other than oil, coolant, a new cam belt, and then just use the stuff that is in here and rebuild whatever I can, polish it up, because I think I have a pretty good looking car here actually. And we're not talking about the design and the shape. We can talk about that another day, but paint itself could clean up pretty nicely. I really like the color, by the way. Anyway, as I told you, this is not going to be a long-term project. So if you already hate this and want me to work on all the other cars, you won't have to wait that long. But that's the plan for this car at least. And I love working on different cars, and I think it's pretty much fun no matter what it is. And I actually like the challenge from time to time to work on something a bit newer, because it's different kind of stuff you're working with. On old cars, it's always rust, parts availability, stock stuff, carb adjustment and all that. On this one, it's suddenly OBD connectors. I can go locally to buy the parts I need. Stuff pretty much just work. For instance, the engine, it just turned over. It's been standing for a lot of years. It just turned over and fired up. That's the brilliance of injection systems from the 90s, and they're from the 90s and up. They are really reliable. So it's a whole different kind of thing, and I think it's fun to save this one because these has not been cherished or regarded as anything in my country at least. So they are on the edge of extinction. So I think it's a fun challenge to save this, and hopefully someone who would like a reliable, usable daily car, but also would like something a bit special and a bit classic, then this would be perfect. Anyway, thank you for watching and see you in the next one.